Hello, everybody. This is Marty from Dawgs Blog with a noontime report of the morning session of the Frank Carson et al. Trial. Today is January 25th, 2019. Scheduled to start at 9:30. Judge was on the bench around 9:35. She did get there a few minutes early today. And there were some numerous witnesses that are defense witnesses, subpoenaed witnesses, and that were here again. As you've heard throughout the last few months, they had to keep bringing them back because nobody knows when the prosecution's gonna rest her case, so they have to keep calling these witnesses back, and it's really creating, to be honest with you, it's creating a little bit of a hardship on some of these witnesses. The one guy, he's works in construction, and he loses money every time he has to sit around in court like this and then just get rescheduled. So, but I don't see any other alternative that there is to it, and it's a real shame it's going on like this. So the two witnesses that these two gentlemen at the time, I believe, lived in the area of Poppencork, possibly right next door, and they were scheduled back for March 1st of 2019 at 9:30. Then there was also 4 officers from the Turlock Police Department that were there. Sergeant Bauckham, I think a Lieutenant Silvera. I apologize. There was Officer Dominic Hernandez and Officer Watson. They were there also for same reason. They were rescheduled. They were scheduled today, and they were rescheduled again for March 1st of 2019 at 9:30. So we have these 6 witnesses all scheduled for the same time again on March 1st. I wonder how that's going to work out. So if you're wondering what these witnesses are going to testify to, I am not sure about the 2 gentlemen. At the start, they were neighbors of the Poppencork, is what I understand, but I'm not 100% sure. And I think they were going to talk about some of the I guess, activities of Poppencork or something, or dogs or whatever. I have no idea. Sergeant Bauckham, Lieutenant Silvera, Dominic Hernandez, and Officer Watson will be called in regards to the DA saying that Turlock Police Department was trying to kill Mr. Monachia, who claimed that Corey Coppin made a lot of claims, including that Corey Coppin had escaped from a trunk of a car when he was living over there on over there off of Olive Street in Turlock. I forget the name of the street right off the top of my head, but he lived over there, and Corey showed him. He had this long, drawn-out story, and he talked about Turlock Police Department attacking him several times, attempting to kill him. They had made many threats. He was trying to get he said he was trying to get his property back after a search warrant, which included the recording that Corey Kaufman made, that if anything happened to him, I'd go after the attorney, Frank Carson, which has seemed to have disappeared, and there's some question about when that was actually taken. So these officers have been subpoenaed by the defense to talk about this Monachia situation, who claims these officers were trying to kill him. Okay. Anyway, so there was also there was a doctor that was subpoenaed for 9 o'clock this morning, and he was not present. And I think his name was Bake or something like that. He did actually show up around half an hour later. He showed up later. They did get a body attachment. That judge had to recall that attachment. It's not really a warrant, but he can be arrested on a body attachment to be brought into court. And he was rescheduled for March 1st of 2019 at 1:30 in the afternoon. So the jury had come up at 9:46, and then this doctor had showed up. This Dr. Bake had showed up, so they had to send a jury out because you can't reschedule a witness in front of the jury for some reason. and the jury was back in around 10:10. Percy Martinez went back to cross on Robert Woody, again talking about the interview with Steve Jacobson and Sergeant Dombey from the CHP on 8/14/15. And this entire conversation is really about the Ass's Grass comment and how that came about. And that pretty much took up the whole morning. It just, there's so much involved. It's so involved. It was very difficult to follow at times, and the recall on Woody is not very good at all. So he said the Ass's Grass comment has something that he's used many times in the past as part of his vocabulary. And the saying goes, your ass is grass and I'm the lawnmower, type of comment. I've said it years ago. It's been around forever. And then Steve Jacobson had talked about the neighbor had heard the comment. Okay, you probably heard it. Somebody tried to go out the door down here and set the alarm off. You can't go out the basement to go outside. Anyway, I'm trying to remember where I'm at now. Steve Jacobson was saying that the neighbor had heard the comment and ID'd the car, and it was an Indian male that was with him when the Ass's Grass comment was made. The investigators said that they know it was Daljeet's BMW that was used. Dombey asked if Baljeet was saying this or if Robert Woody was saying the Ass's Grass comment. Percy Martinez asked him, Robert Woody, were you just kind of going with it at that point? Robert Woody did not recall. He had to refresh for the transcript. He said it could be, but that he is not, recalling this at all. He doesn't seem to really remember anything about it. He says this whole thing is the trip to Johnson Street is fuzzy to him, and that's what he's telling investigators at the time, and he still doesn't really remember. Percy Martinez asked him if it was for the sixth time did the investigators said that the neighbors heard the comment and said he is not sure if Bobby or D were doing the outlaws, which one of the outlaws was actually doing the driving. Again, he had a refresh with the transcript. Steve Jacobson asked who he was with again. They were really hammering this into him, and they asked what was said. Robert Woody said, "You guys are all your ass is grass," and he said to the investigators, "What do you guys want from me? What do you want me to say?" They said the neighbor said, only thing said was the ass's grass comment. Might have been, what he said, it might have been him, it might have been somebody else, whoever, he doesn't know, he doesn't recall. But Robert Woody said he was always with Dee running around on things, but also occasionally with Bobby Atwell. So Jacobson says, who was driving? So Robert Woody said, Bobby driving Dee's car. Then Robert Woody said, Dee was probably driving that day. So it was just a totally convoluted conversation, and he just didn't remember anything at all. There was also a lot of conversation apparently in the interview between the Lander and Johnson visits. It sounds like they're the same day, but I'm really not sure they were, if they happened at all. Woody seemed to think that they were, but when they were talking about the Johnson Street, Robert Woody kept thinking about the Lander Street visit when they went to see Cooley, not Kaufman. And there was a lot of confusion about that. Robert Woody kept saying that he's fuzzy about this. He doesn't really remember. So Steve Jacobson asked him, why are you fuzzy? Why are you suppressing this from your memory? Sergeant Dombey then asked, what was Corey's reaction? Again, Woody had a refresh with the transcript, and he said that he's not sure what Corey Kaufman's reaction was. He was asked if he made eye contact. He said no, there was no eye contact. It was could have been like a prank thing, was what he was asked, if they were just pranking Corey Kaufman. Robert Woody's window was down and yelled, "Your ass is grass." Robert Woody said, "Yeah." And it could have been a prank. Robert Woody says, "I guess it was a prank. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out the day because it's still fuzzy." He doesn't remember. Robert Woody didn't recall pulling in to Scott's driveway that day, Scott McFarland, who lived in the area. And Steve Jacobson's going, no, not Scott McFarland, Corey Kaufman's house. Robert Woody said, "I don't know what Corey Kaufman looked like. I wouldn't be able to pick him out." He knew Michael Cooley, but he did not know Corey Kaufman. Sergeant Dombey. Sergeant Dombey said witnesses said there was a guy in the car with D or B, Atwell, that made a statement when they drove by Corey Kaufman. So that sounds like they didn't stop. And Robert Woody said, no, not anything like that. So Dombey says he just happened to be on Scott Street and drove by. Robert Woody says, well, no. Robert Woody also said it was not his idea for this to happen, so he didn't know what was going on. Steve Jacobson said they were in the BMW. They saw Corey. Robert Woody says, okay. Steve Jacobson says the car stops, and out front of Corey Kaufman's house, or wherever he was, because they were apparently working on a stump, so it may have been at a neighbor's house too. It's really not too clear to me. He had to refresh again from the interview. And what he's doing, he's refreshing from the interview and not refreshing his memory. And I think that's significant to what he succumbed to in the interview. Said he was a passenger in the car. He sees Corey Kaufman, even though he just said he didn't know what Corey Kaufman looks like. The car stops, and someone yelled the ass is grass comment. Steve Jacobson said, did he say it, or did they say it, or did both of you say it? Robert Woody says, can't say. He doesn't know. And he says he can't say about someone he doesn't know. Steve Jacobson asked him, did Daljeet or anybody else wanted to knuckle him up, meaning Corey Kaufman? Robert Woody did not recall, refreshes. And remember, he's refreshing with his interview transcript, not anything with his independent memory. Again, Steve Jacobson said that Daljeet Atwell wanted to knuckle him up. Robert Woody said no, he didn't want to do that. Steve Jacobson asked, did Daljeet want to get out of the car? He's asked, did he say yes, get out of the car? Robert Woody did not recall. Refreshing with a transcript. Remember, this is a transcript of the interview, not from his memory from the incident. Steve Jacobson was asked if he wanted to attack Corey Kaufman, and Robert Woody said no, we didn't want to attack him. They just wanted to say something to him, apparently. It was like there was no plan. It was just something like when they went to Cooley's house, and Bobby Atwell was there with him when they went to Cooley's house. There's no clear date on when this happened either, by the way. It could have been the same day the Cooley incident. It could have not been. I don't know. It's not clear at all because Woody just doesn't have any recollection at all. Steve Jacobson is asking, was it just a chance meeting? And Robert Woody said, well, it must have been on the milk run from the church. They donate milk to the church that's close to expiration dates, and they donate it to the church for baking and cookies and whatever. Again, he's refreshing from the transcript of the interview. And he also said if it's on the milk run, it's only Bobby that does the milk run with the church. I believe he said something to the effect that Daljeet doesn't involve himself with the church, but I may have missed that. Dombey asked him if they were northbound when they went by the neighbor, and then across the street they heard the comment. The neighbor heard the comment, asked him which direction they were traveling on the street. Woody says, yeah, well, no. Well, I'm in the passenger seat, so I guess I said it then. So he was kind of submitting to him at that point. Robert Woody said, it's still fuzzy, but I'm trying to put it together. You guys are pushing me to it very hard. They're trying to get him to push him into something that he's really not sure if really happened at all. Again, he was asked if it was Bobby or Dee driving the car. He said it's always Bobby when they do the milk deliveries. Again, he was refreshing from the transcript of the interview. We took a break. It was 11:05. We came back at about 11:30. We came back from break, and then Percy continued on. Robert Woody had read the transcript of the interview, which refreshed him. Steve Jacobson had said something so clear that was Bobby Atwell driving Dee's BMW. So we are clear, is what Jacobson was saying. They went to the church and shit. Bobby only one that goes to the church. Then they stopped. Steve Jacobson asked if they stopped by the Johnson Street and said the ass's grass comment. This was just repetitive this morning, really bad. But this is how this interview went, too. They were trying to drill it into him. Again, Robert Woody said he doesn't have any any memory, direct memory or anything of the contact with Corey Kaufman at that point. And he said it could have just been said for anyone to hear that was out there. He doesn't know. Again, asked if he got out of the car. No, he didn't get out of the car. Again, the comment was your ass is grass. That was heard by the neighbor, and apparently Kim Stout is saying that there was a confrontation, but I believe she testified that they were out of the car when that confrontation occurred. He said there was no direct confrontation with Corey Kaufman, and nothing else was said. They didn't get out of the car and confront Corey Kaufman, but that's what Kim Stout had testified to. Corey Kaufman was working on a stump in the front yard with another person there. Asked what he had saw, but he didn't really remember exactly what he was doing. You know, we heard one story that he was working on a car, and now we've heard other stories. Initially, that's what we heard. He was working on a stump, and apparently they were pulling a stump out or something, and so they had shovels and some tools out there. And he says, he did see Kim Stout walking down the street as they were leaving the area. He knows her. They've known each other for 20 years. The next day, and Robert Woody said he was with Bobby Atwell, but Kim Stout didn't know who it was. She said it wasn't either one of them. It was like a cousin or something. The next day on 8/15 of 2015, that's the day that This is the day after that interview with Dombey and Jacobson. They went to all the alleged crime scenes and did walkthroughs. And he showed, at Poppenkork when they went through, he showed where he had dug the hole. He said he had used a bobcat prior in that back lot to bury garbage, but was not sure if it was exactly in that spot that he pointed out or not. That's what they're calling the Corey Kaufman grave. He did not know if it was that spot. Any digging that he did back there, he did not contact any pipes in the hole that he dug. Remember this 3 by 6 by 2.5 foot deep hole he dug in 10 minutes in the hard pan. He did not contact any pipes, but there was a gas line that ran through there, as a DOJ discovered when they redug the hole. And it's only just a few inches below the surface of the ground. But he says he did not hit any metal or pipes or anything along that lines. When he was asked when he was at the safety center, he was not in an interview room, but he was in an area where he could see all the other defendants getting processed when they were being booked. This led to a sidebar. There was some objection after objection after objection by Marlon Safrera in some of these areas. There was a sidebar. The jury was sent out of the room at 11:47, and they were talking about some other issues with Robert Woody's rap sheet or something. I don't know why it's an issue. They should have it. He's been in custody since he's last testified, so there shouldn't be anything new on his rap sheet unless he's picked up a serious charge at the jail. And so they went through that, and there was confusion about the updated rap sheet, if it was in fact updated and stuff. So that's where we left off. We went to lunch, and we'll be back at 1:30. And Percy Martinez will probably be, I'm guessing, pretty soon he'll be done. And Marlissa Ferrer will go back into direct question, do her direct again on Robert Woody. Don't forget the podcast tonight at 6 o'clock.